All right, Kevin McElvaney here, Pro Wrestling INDIEstrated podcast. I am joined by Nick McDaniel and David Ali. We're going to be talking today about the Hell Freezes Over show, which is coming up on September 17th. Guys, thanks for joining me here tonight, and thank you for having much better lighting than I do.
Absolutely, man. It's our honor, man.
Of course, what'd you expect?
That's right. So, I mean, we have a bit to get through here. This is a big show. So just want to get right into it. I mean, I guess the headline and the reason we have both of you on here, David, you are in kind of a tough spot with this. You have two championships you're going to be defending. You had the Southern Honor Wrestling Championship and the IWE Championship. You have two tough opponents in John Davis and Carly Bravo. And I understand, this is not a scenario that you were too happy to find yourself in.
Say I wasn't happy, that's an understatement. But I'm somebody who's often in control of my emotions. I can keep things at bay. I can turn things on. I can do whatever I need to do to get things accomplished, which is the reason why I am not worried at all. Everybody wants to say that I'm worried or predict that I'm going to be frustrated or just, scrambling for an answer, a way out. But I don't need one. There's a reason why I'm the main event at Hell Freezes Over. There's a reason why I'm the main event of 5 other shows in the area. There's a reason why I have 2 belts that I'm defending. Nobody else is doing that on that show. John Davis, another hurdle. Carly Bravo. What can I say about bad news and tattoos? Overkill member Carly Bravo. Carly's proven himself, He's a Nightmare Factory trainee. He's Cody's guy. He's been all over AEW. He's been making waves on the indie scene. There's a whole entire reason why Overkill was a perfect fit for him. But there's 5 of us. And 5 of us are ultra talented. 5 of us Danny could all be heavyweight champions. We could be champions at any promotion. So I say Carly Bravo challenging me, it's a welcome challenge. We all feel it's a welcome challenge. If I have to fight Ziki, he'd understand. If Ziki had to fight Ashton, they'd both understand. If I have to fight Danny, which has already happened before, it has to happen. We know what the deal is. We're wrestlers. We've been doing this for a minute. It's the reason why we go overkill every time. Worried? Not worried.
But so that's all well and good, but you're looking at 2 very different kinds of challenges here because you're going head to head with an ally of yours in Carly Bravo. But then, John Davis is no joke. Maybe, one of your toughest, if not toughest opponent to date. This is someone who's been around for years. Big, bad dude. You're not at all worried that he might take that championship away from you?
So I get asked that question a lot about a lot of different opponents. And I have one thing that other wrestlers just don't have. And that's the total, utter belief in myself. That's what allows me to become your savior. So it allows me to take on people like Logan Creed or Max Kruger, whatever he's calling themselves these days. So it allows me to take on Joe Black. So it allows me to take on Sunny Days. So it allows me to have performed at 4 shows this whole week and win every single match. I defended my title twice this week. Against Austin Towers, 7 foot. And again, against Blanco Loco. It's crazy luchador. John Davis, he's just something else the Sabres going to have to deal with. I feel bad for him.
Nick, what do you make of all this? Of course, the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast is putting this whole show together. Just how many different promotions is it that are being represented?
8 different promotions from all over the state.
All over the state of Georgia. And then, David is, when I asked you, because we were talking about this show, and I said, who do we need to have on to talk about this? You said, David. David has these 2 huge matches. What are you expecting going into this?
Well, let's first off specifically, I'll address David since he's here. We'll talk about his.
Yeah,
two
let's
matches.
not talk around him. He's
he's here. So John Davis is somebody handpicked to bring in to face David. David's been on a really good run. He's had probably the best run as champion in Southern Honor. I always give credit where credit is due. Now he can try to glance over his IWE New Age title match like it's something he's okay with. There's a little bit of beef down there with ownership, management, whatever you want to call them at IWE. This was picked by them specifically to put him against somebody who knows him inside and out to take that title from him. That's specifically what was, I know for a fact that's why. And then of course, look, let's be honest with you, stick it to him. He's got 2 matches. He's going to have to wrestle twice on this show. The odds are more against him going home with both of his championships than anybody because he's having to do 2. It's a fact. It's a mathematical fact.
That's cute. That's real cute. But see, being the person that you are in this state, having watched me this whole entire time, you come at me with odds as the reason why I'm going to lose. I'm in this position right now because of odds. It's because everybody threw odds in front of me. Throw Michael Judas in front of me. You know what I do every time you want to throw somebody at me who's potentially a name? They get on TV. You know why? I saved them. You know how I saved them? It's because I beat them. I beat the odds. John Davis is a new odd. Yes, he is. Am I worried? No. Will I have to study? Yes. Will I have to train? Yes. But is that something that I've always done and will continue to do to be who I am? You know it.
Hey,
there's a reason why.
Look, I don't mean to interrupt him, but look, I give David full credit. And even, prior to this, there's a reason David's on here. I have said that David is obviously, and I think I just said, Southern Honor, he has had the best reign probably of any champion in that promotion in its 3-year existence. And probably, honestly, I picked him as potentially one of the wrestlers of the year in our state months ago, and the year was half over. There's a reason he's on the show. I give credit where all credit is due. I'm just saying he is going to have his hands full on that night.
You know what? One other thing we gotta do here, okay? I told Tim, I told everybody at IWE at the last show that was called Overkill, but they wanted to call it something else. But I told everybody there, I'm going to tell everybody here so that everybody else will know going forward, the New Age title is the IWE Championship. If there was another IWE Championship, would it not be defended on this show?
He's the man. I will give you. You're the man when it comes to down there at IWE. Like I said, there's a reason you're on the show, amongst other things, right? There's a reason he's there. I will give full credit where it's due.
I mean, I sense definitely some respect here from you, Nick, for David, but also, I mean.
Hey, hold on. I don't mean to cut you off here, but it depends on which David we're talking about from day to day. There's always a respect issue, but I think there's always a love-hate relationship with David, depending on which David you're talking to on any given day, right, David?
These are facts. I can't speak for the good old boy version of myself, but let's not even talk about him. That's Southern Fried's problem. And Southern Fried, you're not going to get that David Ali. You're going to get the kind of David Ali that you expect to get out of me, Nick.
So I'm wondering, Nick, being, putting the show together, I mean, how much of this is you trying to test David here? I mean, certainly you'd have a certain amount of say over this, even if you didn't put those particular matches together, what's your role in all this?
So listen, we've said it before. In his IWE title defense, that was, I let Timothy Blackman, he made that match. I completely let him make that match, obviously. Now John Davis, that's me. I'm not going to lie to you. We picked that match. I had, listen, the booker at Southern Honor, Dylan, he's been helping obviously in this whole process. When John Davis was handpicked, because we want, I've said it several times, there's a massive level of respect for David Ali. For David Ali to achieve the greatness that we all believe he has, he will beat the best. And that's why we handpick somebody like John Davis to bring in for him to face.
Do you understand the logic?
That can't really be the reason why you made that match, Nick. That can't be. Because as far as what you've said so far, you love you some John Davis. You think he's actually going to beat me for my championship. So you're looking for someone to beat me. And it's interesting that you bring up the good old boy version of myself, because now I feel like you're trying to play mind games this close to the show. So you're trying to piss me off? Is that what you're trying to do? Because
no.
If John Davis was fighting the good old boy version of myself, he probably would lose. Because the guy at Southern Fried, the good version of myself, he cares. But he's not going to get that David Ali at Hell Freezes Over. He's going to get your savior. You guys are funny, man.
I'm a little bit confused here, David. So you're talking about the good version of yourself, the bad version of yourself. The one version's more likely to win, but we're not gonna see that version yet. Like, what's up here? I mean, it seems like maybe this is
all right.
But
I was trying not to talk about it, but it looks like I'm gonna have to.
All right.
In Georgia, David Ali is everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's kind of my fault, because my mission was to save Georgia wrestling. But sometimes there's a part of myself that just enjoys the fact that the fans get behind David Ali. Sometimes there's a part of myself that enjoys doing what some people consider the right thing, caring for others, letting people get a turn, giving people a shot. That guy's a baby. He sucks. I hate him. You'll see him at Southern Fried. You'll see him at other shows outside of Georgia. The good version. There's a good version of me and there's a bad version of me. The good version of me likes to call himself the savior. But everybody knows I'm your savior. So if we could just move on this dualities portion of what David Ali is, I'm going to be a lot happier, and T.O. is going to live a lot longer.
That's a lot to digest right there. We've been at
it's a lot.
Yeah. We might have to include some links here to give some context for everybody, but it sounds like you've been, undergoing some changes, and maybe those will be good, but maybe not. I mean, these are still two tough challenges you're looking at. I mean, how do you get ready for this, David? Like, what are you doing? You talked about learning and training and watching, but like, what is that?
I'm a man who's fortunate enough to have the kind of connects that I need to get me prepared for situations like this. Mm-hmm. I've gone through over 200 matches so far. That may not be a lot to some. That may be a lot to others. But my home, my sanctuary, if you will, is the ring. And as long as I have access to one, there's always going to be David Ali in the ring. Somewhere, somehow, staying sharp, staying on top, staying alert.
Mm. Okay. I mean, I'm convinced. Nick, it sounds like, I mean, you think whether or not he actually pulls it off, David has a shot in these matches. Could you talk a little bit else about how the show came together, what we can expect to see?
Well, I'll give you the wrapped up version as much as I can. The podcast is 5 years old. We've been around for 5 years now, and my wife gave me this brilliant idea that a great way to celebrate would be to throw a show. I, however, did not want to throw just a normal show. I wanted to kind of make it something different that stood out. In 5 years, doing the podcast here in Georgia and making connections all over the state with different promoters and things like that, yes, I started reaching out and asking, say, hey, if I put the show together, would it be something you'd be interested in? And I would ask one promoter, another promoter, another promoter, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then it became, okay, if all these guys are willing to be involved, would you put titles on the line? Yes. So then we go to the next step. And then it's, hey, by the way, though, I want to put people in scenarios they're not normally put in. I want to have them like an example. I'm going to use David. This is why John Davis was picked for David. It's because John Davis has never set foot in a Southern Honor ring. Mm-hmm. You know, but he's like you said, he's a veteran. He's been around. He's paid his dues. He's a solid, you know, he's really good at what he does. And I said, hey, this is a great opportunity to put him in a Southern Honor ring and, you know, have a shot at that title and so forth and so on. So, and then as we grew, we were surprised at how many people were willing to do the show. I mean, it was really that simple. It's, you know, 5 years of goodwill paid off. I guess that's a running joke now at this point is, you know, people are willing. And unfortunately for champions like David, if the promoter's putting the title on the line, they don't, you know, get the volunteer as much as it's kind of like, hey, you're booked on the show, so you're defending your title there, kind of thing. And that's kind of how we got there. But then just months and months of putting these matches together that, you know, we have, you know, it worked out. Like I said, connections, the building was somebody, you know, somebody that we knew, the ring, somebody, you know, and it's just that type of thing, you know, just using connections that we had. And, you know, a wise man once told me, it's not who you know, it's who's willing to admit they know you and do something for you. That's sure. Kind of the, you know, how this show, honestly, with, you know, the bookers helping with this, they're the last two bookers of the year here in Georgia.
Right.
The promotions of the year, they're all involved, you know, they're all involved. It's, again, I'm not doing this. I just it was kind of an idea. And then there's a bunch of moving pieces helping make this happen, you know, to be the show that it's going to be.
So as you're saying all this, Nick, David is, and anyone who's watching the video can see this, but if they're listening to the podcast version, they have no way of knowing. David is just looking just fed up or frustrated with all this. I mean, David, you are on this show that's a really big deal for Georgia independent wrestling scene. I mean, this is 8 different promotions, all these different champions, including yourself. Isn't part of you excited to be part of this event?
You know, I gotta say one thing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sometimes another part of me takes over and it becomes a little too much. He starts yelling at people.
Okay.
Starts coming at T.O., Nick. I'm sorry. I apologize. I try to keep him at bay a lot of times, but sometimes he just comes back up, you know, especially when there's a challenge involved.
Okay.
Sorry. All right. I can't stress enough how proud I am to be on a show like this. There's a lot of promotions involved that I've worked for, who've taken care of me, who've made sure that I've been seen in a certain kind of light that I'm seen in now. And to give the fans something like this is something that's very important to me because it's not been done before in Georgia. So especially just not even 3 years ago, I was somebody who couldn't get booked in Georgia. And now I'm headlining a show like this, defending my belt twice. 2 belts that I've earned, no matter what other versions of myself likes to say. It's a version that these are things that I've done. I go to the gym, I work out, I study, I get in the ring, I do what I need to do to be seen on the independent scene. And whatever I have to do to prolong that, like shows like this, I will do. I can't tell you how excited I am.
And that's where I want to come back to and point out here that what David just said is exactly the truth. Like this show is for fans. It's for people who've, you know, it's for people who've watched our show on Facebook. They've, you know, they've listened to us we're on every podcast platform. That's all great and everything. But it is also for guys exactly like David. Like guys we know, like there are guys on this card that were specifically handpicked because we're like, we know how great they are. and we want to give them a platform to show it. And we were thinking we can do, think about this, guys, 8 promotions, 10 matches, I mean, there's 7 title defenses at this point, on this show from all over the entire state. September 17th in Canton, Georgia. I mean, we hope all of the eyes of the state are pointed at that building. We want everybody to come to that building. The name is Hell Freezes Over for a reason. Like, when this started, I literally have Larry Goodman, who we respect when it comes to Georgia wrestling, journalism, more than probably anybody, looked at me and said, "How the hell did you pull this off?" And it was like I said, I was like, literally, trust me, it's 5 years of, goodwill coming to fruition. But this is our way of giving back, not just to, the fans, which is what it was wholly originally designed for, but it's also to every guy every promotion, every owner, whoever was nice to us in the beginning when we were absolutely nothing, and kind of the same thing. And the talents that we recognized for the last few years, and saying, hey, let's give them an opportunity. And we think this is it.
Right. David, what do you make of all this? 5 years, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, this big show, and of course you're asked to be part of it, being a huge part of the Georgian wrestling scene right now.
Like I said before, the other half of me mentioned having a mission that we both came up with, to save Georgia wrestling. And at first, when you do come up with these mission statements or these grand endeavors, you can never really see it how you want to see it. It never really happens the way you want it to. But somehow or another, everything we plan to set out to do is kind of happening. We wanted there to be places, environments for guys who haven't been seen to be seen. Guys like Joe Black, guys like Michael Judas, newer guys like Carly Bravo. These guys need to get shots. And that's what I've been doing thus far at Southern Honor, fighting guys like Jordan Kingsley, Dominic Stuckey, and it being on TV, or not TV, but it being on video, good video on top of that. It's too many guys. Owen Knight, I'm probably going to just randomly drop names.
Please.
Because there's just so many. And this show is just hopefully the first of many shows where we can prove that all indie shows can work together without bias or without ego. And it's just another step to make wrestling more of a community than it is a war zone.
Love that. I think it would be great if, and I do think it's gotten better in this regard, but if the independent scene could look at it like that, if wrestling as a whole could look at it like that, and in 2021, we're probably closer to that than we've ever been, maybe since the NWA ran everything. But it's a big show. Who are you both looking forward to seeing elsewhere on the card?
I'll let you go, David, if you want to go first. Do you want me to go first?
I am honestly, and I know a lot of people would say this answer just to be whatever, but I'm looking forward to seeing all these matches.
Yeah.
Like I really am. Obviously, I'm going to be seeing how Carly does in that situation. And I want to see all the matches. There's not a match on there that's not good. There's definitely some people that I'll be looking forward to see if there is another Hell's Freezes Over that we couldn't get this time. But this is a show that I hope everybody just like clamors to, and I hope everybody gets something out of it. There's so many good names on this one.
Yeah. And I'll start, man. I will tell you this, coming from never have booked a show, helping all of the parties involved and trying to make these things happen. I have learned if I had hair, it would be falling out at this point. But to see it get to paper where we are now, there are matches, like you said. I mean, look, David knows he was handpicked. His 2 matches are really 2 that I'm looking forward to. I handpicked Ray Fury. Ray Fury doesn't work our state much. He works Mucha Lucha, and that's about it in our state. He has done a show at Southern Honor. He has done a show, up at the Landmark Arena, which we discussed a little bit off of air. So I've been a fan of Ray's for probably 3 or 4 years now. And so I handpicked him to bring him in to wrestle Ashton Starr. Like, I wanted to push that. And I think a lot of that that's what people may not think. I literally picked opponents going, I want to push this guy because I think he's special. Mm-hmm. Now, could I be wrong? Sure. But I think I see something special in these guys, and I picked opponents to handpick. So Ashton Starr versus Ray Fury is one that I think people may look at it and go, oh, well, that's one of the, no, that's one you're going to want to watch. Disruptor Wrestling hasn't run a show because of the pandemic in over 16 months. Mm-hmm. This was their coming out party. They're like, hey, let's try here and let's see if everybody's ready. Vari Morales, been on AEW. Slim J's been around forever. Anybody who will tell you Slim J is a legend in this part. AC Mack, another person David's very familiar with. Those 3 guys are going to wrestle for all of the Disruptor titles. 2 belts. One winner goes home with both. That's just going to be chaos. Speaking of chaos, we have a 6-person lucha match, which is what David referenced earlier. Carly Bravo's involved in that match. Bobby Flacco, who you're familiar with from Action. You said you're familiar with Action. Mm-hmm. They're going to have a mystery partner. We haven't given the team a heads up of who their opponent's going to be. There's one more left. But we're bringing in the international superstars. Loco, who he just wrestled this past weekend, and Dream Girl Ellie with Owen Knight, who is a star. Like, he is a star. David doesn't mention guys if they're not somebody that could worth coming out of his mouth, correct?
And so far, everybody listed as stars, and I fought every single one of those guys.
Anarchy Wrestling is a promotion that runs out of the Landmark Arena. It's legendary. It's the house AJ Styles built. That's what you're going to hear, right? Everybody. Will Caution's the current champion. We're bringing in Techi Mikuchi from Southern Fried, who doesn't even work for Anarchy. We're bringing him in to face Will, to push Will. Because why? There's something special in Will, I believe. Same thing. Joe Black. Now, we're going to take David and we're going to move him out of the equation here. When you talk about some of the best wrestling and when it comes in Georgia, and David will probably agree with this, it's Joe Black. Joe Black is a stud. So when you need somebody to push somebody, listen, it's full out there. We had booked Davey Richards. Things happen. It's pro wrestling, right? Everybody nods their heads. At pro wrestling, things happen. Did we do okay in our replacement by bringing in JD Drake?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yes, we did. So we always try to live up to it. So there's that. All-Star Special, undeniable. 2 of the hottest tag teams in Georgia. They're going to wrestle for the Viral Pro Tag Team Championships. I mean, All-Star's as hot as anybody. Undeniable, is as entertaining as they come. This match will be so entertaining. I tell people this will be worth your ticket alone just to see how entertaining this match is going to be. You want to talk about unique, and we talk about entertaining. PCW, Platinum Championship Wrestling, PCW, they wanted on the show. I cut a deal with Matt Hankins, who is the owner. Their title's the Dealer's Choice Championship because Brian Blaze, who's in Undeniable, is already in a match. Duncan Mitchell is their Dealer's Choice Champion. Unfortunately for Duncan, the Dealer's Choice Champion, he gets to pick all the stipulations for every match he's in. That's why it's called the Dealer's Choice. I would only allow it if I got to pick the stipulation. I went 24/7. He has to defend the title all night long in that locker room against everybody who's there. So that should be a challenge in itself. And last but not least, the Southern Fried. Look, we always tell people, these are all main events on any card that you're going to go to around Georgia. This match has to go on last just for the simple fact we're hoping the ring can stand up. The Southern Fried Championship will be Michael Judas versus Cyrus the Destroyer versus Gunnar Miller versus the Big Effing Deal Jeter. If you're familiar with any, if not all of those guys, we really hope the ring holds up. Enough said. I just gave you 10 reasons you need to be in the Action Building, Canton, Georgia, September 17th. Doors open at 7. Bell time is at 8. You better have your tickets, by the way. They're already available, so we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if someone is interested in checking out the show. What you gave the date, time, all that, but how do they purchase tickets, follow along with what's going on?
you can go to, you know, the website we're using is Big Cartel. So tapped out wrestling podcast.bigcartel.com, or our website's a lot easier to remember. It's tappedoutpod.com. You're literally tappedoutpod.com. And on there, you'll see the banner. Click on it. It'll take you straight to the tickets, you know, where you buy the tickets. So that's the easiest way. And then honestly, if you're following us on Facebook, by the way, on any social media platform, we are at Tapped Out Pod. We literally uniformity across the board. We are at Tapped Out Pod. To make it simple, you'll find the link to the tickets on any platform, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you know, on and on and on. And of course, tappedoutpod.com is the website. So
perfect. I want to thank you both for joining in. David, I have one more question for you, but I'm a little worried about the answer. So before I ask you the question, anything else you want to plug? Social media, other projects you have?
You can find me on Instagram at Real David Ali and on Twitter at The David Ali. What do I need to plug?
Oh boy. I thought the plug was the soft question here, but sorry.
Timothy Blackman wants to put me in a match against Trish Adora September 25th at IWE. To say that people don't need to see that is a lie. People need to see that. People need to watch that, because Slim J is going to be the special guest referee. Overkill is banned from ringside. And it's just going to be me, Trish, and Eminem. That's going to be a spectacle. Not to mention, there's going to be Southern Honor on October 7th. No. October 8th. So you're going to have to make an edit for that. It's October 8th. And that is going to be something that's even more of a spectacle, because it's 2 cages, 2 rings, War Chamber. I'm defending the Southern Honor Championship against Owen Knight, against Michael Judas, Joe Black, Austin Towers, AC Mack.
Wow.
Yeah. So for me to be worried about John Davis is crazy. I've got other things I've got to worry about. What were we going to say? Did I cut you off? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just thinking that's, the War Chamber match and some of the toughest wrestlers in Georgia right there. And I mean, you have Trish Adora before that, one of the best technical wrestlers on the planet. But to even get to that, and to even be able to defend the Southern Honor Championship, you have to retain it. You got to beat John Davis.
You're right. I gotta beat John Davis. So even though he may be who he is, he may be a tough challenge, looks like I've got to do some homework, don't I?
I think so. Should probably leave you to it. Honestly, I'm a little afraid of the prospect of continuing this on too much longer. You got a bat there in your hands for those who are listening and not watching. It looks like there's some barbed wire wrapped around it. Nick, is there anything else that we should cover before I quickly hop off this call?
No, man. Like I said, we just want to, I would love to see more of this, in independent wrestling all over the country. Like, I really would. I mean, Hell Freezes Over was trying to do a couple things. One, show everybody promoters can work together. Things can happen if we all try. It's for the fans. Like I said, every listener, every viewer who's ever listened to our show, it's a showcase for all of the talents that we wanted to, put a spotlight on. This show, look, I'm full disclosure here. We're going to have this thing. It's going to be on our Patreon. It is going to be recorded by the crew who does Southern Honor. The same crew that puts their shows on IWTV are going to record this show, and it'll be on our Patreon first, patreon.com/tappedoutpod. But of course, it'll actually eventually, we are going to air this on Facebook. This show will be on Facebook. Like, that's our ultimate goal. So we can show the world why we think Georgia independent wrestling is, it's right up there with the best. And guys like David and Joe Black and so forth, and every other guy on this card, we think this is why if you're not looking down here to Georgia at independent wrestling, you're making a mistake, and this card's going to be one that's, I think, going to open a lot of people's eyes.
All right. Well said. David, anything else before we end for today?
The bat that you mentioned, her name is Big Red. Know it, love it, call her that, because that's what her name is. But Kevin, I'm going to ask you one question, man. Are you going to watch on Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'll tune in. I don't want to upset you or Big Red.
Yeah. You should watch. And then you'll figure out how I'm going to beat John Davis, how I'm going to take on Carly Bravo, and if I can make it to Trish Adora.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick. Thank you to Big Red and David. And thank you all for listening to Pro Wrestling INDIEstrated. We'll be back soon with another great episode.